On today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, we have Louw Claassens from South Africa here to talk about her career in not only with sharks, but in marine science. We talk about pipefish. We talk about an endemic seahorse in South Africa. We talk about just living in South Africa. Dave recounts a lot of stories from South Africa. It is so much fun, and I can't wait to bring this to you. So let's start the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I'm your co-host, Andrew Louw, and here with my co-host, Dr. David Ebert. David, we went back a little in time and recounted a little bit of your experience in South Africa, while talking about Louw's experience in South Africa. A lot of fun. You know, what do you want people to get at? Like, what are you hoping that people get out of this interview?
I think that just a little bit of it was a tour guide of South Africa, just some of the real beautiful places there. Talk about the Garden Route and Knysna and stuff, all, beautiful places. And of course, whenever we do is have someone on from South Africa, for me, it's kind of a chance to go down memory lane and get a little nostalgic. 'Cause I had such a wonderful time and wonderful experience in South Africa as a young person there. And thankfully, we talked about some stuff we're not going to include in this podcast today that we'll leave off for now. But no, it's wonderful. I mean, I always talk very highly of South Africa. I just love the country. It's a beautiful place. And the people are wonderful. And I've just had some really good friends. Louw's a person I've gotten to be friends with in the last couple of years. And we talk about how, she was really working on everything but sharks and rays, and we got connected through a mutual friend, Jonathan Giddens, who was on the podcast last year in August, I think she was. And just talk about how we network, and the marine community is small, and one thing led to another, and now Louw's kind of diving into the shark world, which is kind of cool to see. So
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. I think that's awesome. It's going to be, I think it's always fun for me to learn about sort of the geography of South Africa when we have people from that country on, but also just, when we hear about South Africa, especially on this podcast, we talk a lot about sharks, but in this episode, we really got to focus in on the diversity of animals that are there, but also the discovery that needs to be made. One interesting thing is a lot of times we have people on from like South America or from like the Southeast Pacific, you get a lot of people who haven't done research because funding hasn't focused on their countries in a lot of places, and now they're just discovering so many new things with like manta rays and these little sharks and all this kind of stuff. You've worked there as well, and you have so many collaborators around that are able to do this. But even in South Africa, a country that you would think would have a dedicated resources to marine science, just based on like the shark science that they do, still discovering a lot of things that are happening. We talk about the discovery of a species of seahorse in this episode, and that ends up being like they didn't know that it was there, and so I think it was really cool to talk to Louw about this, because she was really kind of finding her way within marine science and being like, where do I belong, based on sort of like networking and availability of stuff, and like, oh, this interests me as an explorer. That's really where we dive into, is like her science career so far as an explorer, and where that's going to take her in the future. So I can't wait for people to listen to this interview. So Dave, let's get into the interview with Louw Claassens. Enjoy, everybody, and we'll talk to you after. Hey, Louw, welcome to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about all things marine biology and, of course, sharks?
I am. Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast, where we have an awesome guest to kick off our new year. We have the fabulous Dr. Louw Claassens from South Africa. And you know me, if we have somebody from South Africa, it's going to be an awesome show today. So
Nice.
Louw started her journey studying South Africa's endangered and endemic Knysna seahorse for her PhD. After completing her PhD, she continued her research and conservation work in the Knysna estuary, which is in the south coast of South Africa. Continued working and worked as the director for the Knysna Basin Project. Her work there on the critically endangered pipefish led to the species being downlisted to endangered in 2025. She's been a National Geographic explorer since 2019 due to her work on the pipefish. Also during this time, she discovered the first pygmy seahorse from Africa. I won't try to pronounce the name. It's Hippocanthus something or other. As well as a new pygmy pipefish. I won't try to pronounce that one either because I don't understand it.
It's so easy.
I know. Well, we'll let you do that in just a moment. For this work, she was named a finalist for the Future in Nature Award in 2020. In 2021, Louw moved to Palau to lead the development and research of conservation of Palau's National Marine Sanctuary, which she took her first open and deep ocean diving experiences. During her time in Palau, she developed locally led offshore research focused on local capacity development and guidance of offshore research in small island developing states. It was during this time she saw the light and started to gravitate to sharks, when she recorded the Pacific sleeper shark for the first time in Palau waters, thus extending its known range at the time. And we extended it beyond that, actually. And thanks to our mutual friend, Jonathan Giddens, who was on the podcast last August, she connected Louw and I, which resulted in a publication documenting this range extension. Now here's where Louw's story really gets good. In 2023, Louw moved to Timor-Leste, taking up a postdoctoral fellowship with WorldFish to study the unknown ecosystems in the remote South Coast. During this time, she started seeing various shark and ray species being landed, and this resulted in a collaboration with me and Adriana Pestana, who was also on the podcast last March, documenting the shark and ray fauna of Timor-Leste. In fact, one of the cool discoveries we've already made was done through a live video of the painted swell shark, which led to another publication with Jonathan, Louw, and I. Louw will be featured in an upcoming episode of the Save Our Seas Foundation supported documentary series, Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive. We'll have an update for you on that later. Louw's experiences have made her a cheerleader for the underdogs and those that are too often forgotten, like seagrasses, muck, and weird critters to remote coastal communities. She's a member of both the IUCN Species Survival Commission seahorse, pipefish, and sea dragons. I'll have to find out what those are. And the IUCN SSC Species Monitoring Specialist Group. Louw has published 40 papers, including 2 with me, and she has 1 book to her credit. She's received numerous grants and awards. She's a frequent presenter at conferences, a public speaker, and featured in various media platforms. And today she claims she's been on the Beyond Jaws podcast. And with that, Louw, welcome to the
pinnacle.
Reaching the pinnacle.
Just
Louw,
getting started, it looks like.
And one more thing.
My Lord.
Louw did her PhD at Rhodes University, which is my alma mater where I did my PhD. So
There
The
you
only reason
go.
why I'm here is the Rhodes connection.
the Rhodes connection, old roadies.
Alumni stick together, right?
Yeah.
Exactly,
We
exactly.
have to.
Well, Louw, I'm going to ask you the question we ask everybody. So, how did you first get interested in marine science?
So this is a long story, but I'll
Good.
That's
kind
why
of
we have time. We got lots of time.
Take your
short. Okay, so as you said, I'm from South Africa, but I was born in the middle of South Africa in a little mining town, which is very depressing, objectively. So I grew up there, born and bred. The ocean was very far removed from my life, but I was privileged enough to go on summer holidays along the south coast of South Africa, which is the Gardner route. And, you know, people that have been there know it's magical. So, and from when I was 3 months old, privileged enough to go to the ocean. So the ocean was always there, but it was just not in my everyday life. So after school, where I was pretty average, to be fair, right? I went on a gap year to Scotland, and I came back and my parents were like, okay, you're going to study. We don't care what you study, but you're going to study. So I enrolled to study journalism at the University of Pretoria, which is also very far removed from any ocean, right? So as you can imagine, I was not having a good time. I also quite suffered from depression and social anxiety during that time. Well, still, but during that time. And then I dropped out middle of the year, and I was a lost cause, I think, plus minus.
Within your first year?
Yeah, within my first year of journalism, I was like, yeah, nah, it's not working. I am leaving now.
Interesting.
And then it was a bit of a period of I don't know what's happening, you know, with my life. I know I like the ocean. I know I like animals. I know I like all these things. And then by happenstance, we went to the University of South Africa, UNISA, which is a distance learning university, right? So you're never on campus. You sit in your house and you study. And I went there, and this friendly lady is like, okay, you can do zoology, environmental science. You can do a BA or a BSc, right? So BSc is where you have all your sciencey bits in it, and the BA is just a little bit of the softer kind of social side of it, right? And just by, I don't know why, I went the BSc route. And then I went home and I studied for 3 years. During that time, I moved down to the south coast again. So I was by the ocean. I did my BSc. I did zoology. I loved it. And And then I moved back to the middle of South Africa for some reason, right? So away from the ocean, which is a rookie mistake.
Right.
But I dabbled in some environmental, consulting. I worked at a random mine, doing random things. I moved on to my honors, and my dad always said, there's no money in marine biology, and he's not wrong.
He's
not wrong.
He's not wrong. No.
Not wrong. And he's from an engineering background. So then I went freshwater. I did my honors in freshwater ecosystem health. I did my master's in freshwater ecosystem health at the University of Johannesburg. But it was that master's degree that changed everything. The master's degree was made out of modules. And one of the modules took me down for a coastal module down to Knysna on the south coast. And we were in the estuary there. We met this old Professor Brian Allenson, also from Rhodes. He was 90 something, right? So he was old. And he met us. He took our group out on the estuary. It was raining. It was cold. It was miserable. But I had the time of my life. It was amazing. And Knysna's beautiful. It's got these beautiful heads with the ocean coming in. It's beautiful. And we saw the little seahorse in a aquarium there. And Professor Allenson was talking about how he would want to do some research in it. And I was like, oh, interesting old man. And I said to him, if you ever get money, you let me know, right? But the course came to an end. We went home. And I think the key thing is that I sent a follow-up email. And I said, hey, man, do you have some money? And then it all came together. We got some money from local residents. Knysna is known for very rich people who had too much money. And then, I got some funding. Because, again, I wasn't a scholarship kid, right? My marks were never good enough for scholarship. Let's all be honest. Let's all be honest.
A lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah, I think we can both relate to that.
That wasn't me. So never going to get that. So we got money from the community. I moved down to Knysna. I enrolled at Rhodes University. Prof. Brian Allenson was already retired, but, he was from there. And then I got a brilliant co-supervisor, Professor Alan Hodgson, who was still at Rhodes. And then I started working for the Knysna Basin Project, which was an NGO created by Prof. Allenson. So it was a bit weird and mumbled and jumbled and confusing and a steep learning curve. Because when I started my PhD, that's when I started marine science. I had a science background, but same, but different. So it was a bit different.
What were the biggest challenges when you started that PhD going into the marine part? Because you did an honors in freshwater. You had the interest there, and you had the basics of science, like doing a zoology or science degree. What was the biggest challenge in terms of the material that you were learning? Is it just the catching up on all the different knowledge that you had to learn?
It's catching up. And I feel like the ocean is just so dynamic, and there's just so much diversity in it. And with a PhD, you do a deep dive, right? So I just needed to teach myself so many things. And it's funny you say catch up, because I feel like my whole life I'm catching up. I'm running and running and running and running to catch up. Because I always felt I was a little behind. I started my PhD quite late. I worked in between. It wasn't you pitch up and you study, and you've got a PhD. It was I'm always late. So I'm always rushing to catch up. And just working in the ocean, getting a skipper's license, diving. I did my open water in 2004-ish, and I did a dive a year. But then suddenly in 2014, I got to Knysna. I dusted my little regulator off, and then I got into the estuary alone, and I just kind of gave myself a refresher, which I wouldn't suggest to masses of people, because that's how you die. But it worked out. And I figured out how to dive again. To be fair, it was 5 meters of water. It's fine. You can stand up again. It's cool. So just all that, and it was relatively lonely. So as someone with social anxiety, that works, but professionally, you're isolated also because you're not at a campus. You don't see your lectures. Prof. Allenson was amazing because he was like old school. So he taught you the value of taking time, taking care. When we did water quality analyses, right? And it was still like the old school method. And he, you know, I mean, not that I can remember anything now, but like the old school method, you know, how to measure like nitrates and phosphates and things like that and stuff. And he started from scratch. If he pulled out a sensor, he would start describing to you how it works, point by point.
It's so
you know,
valuable.
so it's not, but you know, it was slow going, a little bit alone, a lot of trying to do it yourself and figuring it out. But yeah, having someone like that teach you these things is amazing.
I got to say a bit of as a PR plug that the Knysna area and that garden route. If people listen to the show, if you ever go to South Africa, take the time to drive from Cape Town up to Port Elizabeth and just take some days. That's just a beautiful area. I used to drive it all the time. It's an amazing area there. And you actually kind of landed in a really nice area if you had to be.
I mean, it could be worse, right?
I mean,
worse.
You could be up in Johannesburg for some place. You know?
Yeah.
So,
but it was interesting, and I think you know, people always say it doesn't matter where you live. You know, you make the best of it or whatever. But I think many people in the ocean, you know, sciences and the ocean world can appreciate. Yeah, that might be so, but ocean people require an ocean.
Yeah.
So you know, once you're there, then you're like, okay. Yes.
So I got to ask. There's a side question, an inside question. Did you ever see any of the infamous Knysna elephants when you were there?
No. But this is now a side tangent thing.
Totally.
Because Sandparks was doing research on the Knysna elephants, but fun fact, it's not elephants, it's elephant, and they put out it's just one and a female. Shame. And they put out action cameras, like cameras to like motion sensor cameras. And they captured this one little elephant that was walking around alone, playing with these like forestry equipment. And this lady was giving this presentation, and it was the saddest presentation that I've ever seen in my life. This lone Knysna elephant walking around.
Back in the day when I was there used to be 3 around, at least, and they used to talk about them. They're legendary to supposedly. They're a local endemic species, a subspecies.
Yeah, species I think is a big word,
like
but,
a sub.
but they're separate.
They're separate. It's kind of a.
Yeah, and they live. I mean, it's a totally different environment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's old photos of many of them walking around, but I think they just get squeezed out, right?
Yeah, if you're listening to the episode, go Google up the Knysna elephant. It's kind of an interesting story, but I didn't know they were down to 1. There was like 3, and it was like a big. It was a big. I never saw them, but it was like a big deal if you encountered them down in that area and stuff. But it's kind of a.
But I wasn't lucky enough.
No, well, especially
also, it wasn't in the estuary, so. What do I care?
That's their problem.
Yeah, that's their problem. So you're working in the estuary down there in Knysna, and you're working on the pipefish, right? Was that the one you're working on?
Seahorse.
The seahorse. Okay.
The Knysna seahorse. Yes.
Okay, and actually, you can. Why don't you give the scientific names of those 2 species that I couldn't pronounce earlier? Okay,
so the 2 species that we described in South Africa is Hippocampus nalu and then Silex nkorsi, which I feel is very mild scientific names.
Okay, I could have got through the
I'll
first
be honest,
genus.
Dave will go off on like shark Latin names forever.
Right?
Yeah, this one I'm surprised, Dave, that you weren't able to. I always have trouble once he says it. I just kind of tune out. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, but then when this one he couldn't figure it out, I'm surprised.
They got my attention, and I wasn't sure. I probably could have got through the Hippocampus nalu, but the other one, the pipe horsefish.
Yeah.
That one I probably couldn't have done. I probably couldn't have got that one done, I'm pretty shameless. If I mangle the name, I mangle the name. I don't care.
Yeah, you got to try it. Got to give it a shot.
So I have to ask you, what's the derivation of the species name for those 2?
What the reasoning behind it?
Yeah.
So the taxonomist here, so if it's wrong,
Yeah.
just blame the taxonomist always.
Sure.
Is Graham Short, and he's like the signated taxonomist in the world, right? So Hippocampus nalu, that was an interesting story because people kind of got to know me as the signated person in South Africa. Anyway. We went up to Sudwana to try and look for this pipe horse because someone sent me a photo of this pipe horse, right? Which wasn't that big a deal. Okay, yeah, there's many new species of pipe horses. That's cool, whatever. And then we got there, and a young dive instructor showed us a photo of a tiny, tiny little seahorse that looked very suspiciously like a pygmy. And we were like, yeah, nah, because pygmies don't live in the Indian Ocean or in Africa, right? So we were like, nah, man. But we looked at it, and it was a pygmy. And then later, almost a year later, I went with Richard Smith, who did his PhD on pygmy seahorses, and we went to collect some specimens to see, if we can describe it. And the name comes from that dive instructor. Her second name was Nalu. Yeah,
Okay.
Savannah Nalu.
Interesting.
I don't know her surname. So that's where that come from.
Oh, so it's like an ode to her for finding.
Yeah,
finding
to
the
say
pygmy.
thanks,
That's
man.
nice.
Because that was a big discovery. That was the first pygmy seahorse in the Indian Ocean, in African continent.
Yeah.
Right.
That was quite big. And then the pipe horse, we wanted to give kind of a Zulu name because it's on the east coast of South Africa in KwaZulu-Natal. And it kind of refers to like a chief, like a chieftain.
Right.
Kind of person, and the little pipe horse has got a little crown bumpy thingy on there.
Nice.
Graham,
So it looks
Yeah.
like a
Graham
crown.
will give
Yeah.
the scientific terms, but a little bumpy thing.
The bumpy thing. Yeah.
That thing. So it kind of was apt, I think, to kind of bring
Yeah.
that in. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting because I didn't mean to, I didn't want to. I think it's kind of interesting, but for people listening, I don't want to get too off in the weeds. But I think it's fascinating because South Africa. I always talk about the sharks and rays there, but it's just such a. There's to this day there's things you can discover like these pygmy seahorses, pipefish, new fish species you can still find in there if you know what you're looking for, you're looking around for it, and this was all during your PhD research.
It was kind of mangled in. So I started my PhD 2014 while working for the Basin Project.
Okay.
So my aim with the Knysna Basin Project was to take it from a 90-year-old professor organization to a community research organization.
Right. Yeah.
So I finished my PhD 2018-ish, and then I worked as director for the Basin Project. So we dabbled. We dabbled in many, many things. We collaborated with many, many people. And whenever there was a side gig, because that's one of the things I love in my life as a side gig, I go and do the side gig.
That is spoken just like a marine scientist.
Yeah. Oh, there's this project here.
Oh, there's this thing.
We're like border collies. If there's something happening, we're like, okay, we're going. So, and people send me photos all the time, and then I'm like, okay, Dave, I think we're similar because people send you photos a lot. And you're
all
like,
the time.
I'm
Shark
coming to
photos,
visit.
skate,
So,
stingrays,
yeah. So that's what
yeah.
happened. People sent me photos, and then we made it happen. We went to have a look.
So is this
But it's
like
funny-
people within Knysna, like that were sending you
No.
photos?
No,
like
it's
divers.
divers. It's like just rando people. Yeah.
And how did they get to know that you were like the sort of so-called the expert at the time doing a PhD on these types of seahorses and pipefish and so forth? Like, was it just through academics, like through the institutions?
I mean, I think the academics don't know. The academics don't know about me. They were like, "Who's this random person?" No, I think so people love seahorses because what's not to love? First,
For sure.
The Knysna seahorse is South Africa's only endemic seahorse. It's endangered. For a long time, it was the only endangered seahorse till the stupid Australians came on the. And got their own endangered one, but whatever. It's kind of like they always follow our lead,
Yeah.
That's maybe a different thing.
No.
It's a different podcast.
It's a special seahorse. Seahorse. And we put a lot of effort into promoting that seahorse. There's a couple of very popular South African shows. One is 50-50. I don't know. I don't know if they're South African audiences. Anyway, 50-50, and the other one is
50-50.
Carte Blanche.
Yep.
And they came to look at the Knysna seahorse and the work we were doing. Knysna is, I mean, there's a lot of kind of wealthy people living there.
Right.
Yeah, we shared far and wide. So I think people just got into, And then what also happens is people reach out to Project Seahorse, which is like the seahorse people.
Yeah, they're Canadian, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Same here. Yep.
In the world. And then they kind of link us up also. Yeah.
I think that's such an important strategy, too, right? To get that out there. You know, it like seahorses do well with the public. They become iconic species. You have this endemic species here, and you're in an area where there's, you know, the money is there, and so people will you know, they kind of take pride in it, right? It's kind of like have you ever heard of the organization Rare?
Yeah,
they do they do the same thing. They take like one species, usually in an island community or small community, and they're like, this is the pride of the community. Let's make this the pride, and then they get everybody, you know, to protect it and so forth, and it makes it a lot easier. And more funding for research, you find out more about it, you can do more, you know, policy work and that. So I think that's great that you get that out there. It just goes to show how important, you know, I'm the comms guy, so it's important to get the communication out there.
It is, I think, a game changer, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's a game changer to make it easy for people to understand. Sometimes scientists can just be so far removed, even when they think they're not far removed. They're far removed.
Totally.
Yeah. So I really love the idea of, you know, and we took people out on it's just what I really love. So we had little rocky shore outings with like people. And then we just showed them animals on the rocky shore, you know. We'd be like, this is a sea star. This is how it eats. This is what it does for, you know, its daily life. And people don't realize that until you show them stuff. And it's like you're a kid and you're playing on the rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, you know, it's. I think that's one thing. A little bit with the social media, but I think the in-person stuff's even better with people. And you touched on this, like, you know, in the science community, like, we'll get real excited talking about something amongst ourselves, and we're like, you're really excited. But somebody who doesn't even know anything about it, we're using all this jargon that they don't even understand. You're kind of leaving out the people that you really want to connect with and convey that enthusiasm to.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think I think it's changing now. It used to be kind of the people I had growing up when I was a student. They were very much like insular. And then so I think, you know, we kind of started changing. Well, social media changed the whole landscape, but it was starting to come around a little more when you started having these, for whatever you want to call, like whether it's Discovery Channel or even National Geographic, doing some of these more outreachy things where you can connect and talk with somebody, and then you need to be able to communicate to them in a language that the average person can understand. You know, because if you're throwing around the scientific name of the seahorse or something, like, well, that's great for you, and but who else really is going to know what you're talking about, or the question is like, why should they care about this little seahorse?
Yeah.
You know,
I always think I take quite a minute to understand something. So when I explain something, I explain it so I would understand it.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
that's the important part, right?
Make it super clear, and exciting. You know, the ocean is exciting, and what I really think is, and Dave, you can probably appreciate this from when you started work. All the ability we have now to show people what lives underwater, like the cameras, the video, the footage. I mean, that wasn't there. Now we can show people. Look at this thing.
Well, I tell people back in the day when Paul Cowley and I would set off to Namibia, and it's a true story. We literally all we have is a compass and a map. That's the only navigational thing we had.
That's much fun, to be fair.
I mean, it was but I mean, how many people, like, say in your age group and younger, would know how to use a compass? If you just gave them a compass and that's all they had, no GPS, no satellite phone, no nothing, and literally, you know, I laugh when I tell the story now because it's kind of funny, but I'd tell like Leonard Campagno and a few people there, Tom Heck, like, we're going to be gone for 8 weeks, and if you don't hear from us in 10, like no phone call or anything, send somebody to look for us. And that'd be like,
so like, a little bit.
You know, 10 weeks is 10 weeks is probably not going to end really well for us, but if you just come, but that was all.
Come find our bodies somewhere.
Literally, go find our bodies, what's left of it and stuff.
Phone
but it was
my mom.
Phone the parents. They're and literally all I do is like I'd look at a map in Namibia and say, well, we'll be somewhere along this 500-kilometer area of the beach. And it'd be like, that'd be it, and we'd go. And there's, I mean, I can't imagine people like, again, sort of your age group and younger, like not being out of communication with no satellite phone, no camera phone, nothing, just literally a compass and a map for 2 months.
I'm not even out of communication when I go to the bathroom. I got my phone with me all the time.
You have
Like
to.
it's
Something
it's going anywhere without communication is ridiculous nowadays.
No, it's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Crazy. And the sciences are very regulated now, even in South Africa,
Yeah.
It's very regulated what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do.
Oh.
I mean, my whole PhD, my diving was illegal theoretically, because you need a dive supervisor, you need this, you need that.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
no
Well, in
one's got
Canada,
time
here
or
in
money for that.
Here in Canada, like you can't scuba dive for work. You actually
No.
have to have a commercial diver's license now
Yeah.
because insurance won't cover. So like we have like our government, so like Environment Canada and Climate Change, that department will have its own field unit where they are commercially regulated. Like they have their commercial diver's license and they go out with the whole commercial diving sort of like equipment and stuff like that. And you're just like, oh, where I see other people, I'll see them online like scuba dive. I'm like, how are you allowed to do this? Like, what's happening here?
Wild
That's
West.
not fair.
Wild West.
That's when I was coming up in the 80s, I'd say this all the time. Like it was the Wild West, because even in California, if you thought of something like, well, go try it out. No, there was no restrictions. Like if I wanted to go out and catch whatever, a bunch of sharks or something, big deal. Just have a fishing license. That was it. In South Africa, there wasn't even that. It was just like I just roll into some town somewhere and just start asking people whatever sharks we needed. And I won't get into some stories here because we'll probably get in trouble now. But
This is how you get canceled, Dave. This is how you get canceled.
This is how we could go off into definitely go off into the weeds here. But
Move away.
just walk away. But there was a lot of stuff you would do. Like you would there was no. I say nobody cared. You could literally just go do what you want. I think in some ways it was a lot better to do. It was like a little better because you could do stuff. It wasn't like you had to just to do anything. You had to get some permit. You could you could do some stuff. And I think if anything, it's gone too far the other way now.
I think it's a smidge too regulated. And the problem, I mean, safety. I get it.
Of course,
safety.
The thing that bugs me a little bit is it removes the ability of people that is maybe not a big organization that doesn't have $1 million to do this work. It kind of removes them of doing this work. Because if I had to go legit, say with the diving during my PhD, there was no money. I mean, I did a commercial diving course and a scientific diving course.
Yes,
but I didn't have money to pay a dive supervisor to look at.
You'd almost have to have a team of divers to go out. Yeah, exactly.
That's
what I think. What it does is it takes away the freeness of exploration.
Yes.
Right. Which I think it defines. A little bit, Yeah, which defines a lot both of your careers. I feel like in a way. Like Dave, obviously you're an explorer. You like to discover things. You get into quote unquote some trouble and then come out of it. And then but you do it for the exploration. Part of it too. And Louw, it looks like this. That seems to be the theme so far with your career. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like let's explore. Let's see what I can find. Oh, there's something else over here. Like you're with you're working with a small organization in a nice place, and then all of a sudden you're getting a lot of attention because you're finding these cool things, and it's just by discovery, and then by going over to like a dive operation and be like, hey, we found this really tiny seahorse. Oh, there's a pygmy seahorse. Now we've discovered that there's pygmy seahorses in the area. Were you always like that, even as a kid? Like, was exploration, is that the part of science that drives you to really fall in love with science and the work that you do? Is like, I know that's for Dave too, but is that what it does it for you? Is to like the opportunity for discovery, or the fact that you're trying to do something, but you're out in the bush, out in the water, like going out and doing stuff? Is that what makes it for you?
I think so. And, as a kid, I love looking at tiny things. I love seeing things that, people might miss or whatever, and spending time with it. And I think marine science is such a cool gig to do that.
Yeah.
In,
oh, yeah.
because it's so broad. And then you're walking, like say in a conference, and you meet an amphipod guy. And
Yes.
he's like, amphipods are the best shit ever. Have you seen these things? And you're like, I guess. And I just love people that love their things so much.
Yeah.
And Dave, I mean, you are that for sharks and rays, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so you
can have
these
heated
people-
battles in there, like
Yeah.
heated debates and discussion in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I just love the love and the passion.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I love St. Nathan's, but I just love the ocean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do get and if I don't have a good side gig going, I have my day job. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
you know,
of
I'll
course.
do my day job, but I love a side gig. And I love a side gig that doesn't need a lot of money, that works with people on the ground, and that does cool stuff. You
That's
know?
this podcast.
That's what I love.
That's how this podcast
That's what
came
I
to be.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Because I think you don't need all the money. You don't need all the things.
No.
If you can build
No.
a nice network. I mean, look at Dave and I. It was an email correspondence.
Yeah.
And that's also the value, because then when you find the people that are really into their thing or their field, they want to share, they want to help, they want to
Yeah.
reply to emails. I mean, you get a whole bunch of people that are just shit and don't want
Yes.
to play, but then
Right.
you're like, okay, you do you, man.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
play with these people.
You have that choice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the way you and I connected was just like through Jonathan. Was just it's
Random.
like it's just I've had those things happen. You know, I've had a longer career now than you at this point, but those are just amazing because I've met some of the best people, like connecting with you, and then that's what led to going to Timor-Leste. And we'll share the story quickly. I don't know if everybody knows the story, but you were in Palau, and I knew Jonathan. Jonathan and I have never actually been in the same room physically together, but we've had this correspondence for
Well,
many
it sounds
years.
like you're like buds. You're like,
Oh yeah, we're like drinking buds. It's like I think we've published like literally like we've published like 5 or 6 papers together from from all over the world, like the Galapagos, Palau, Timor-Leste, and it's just like, but
What
we've
a
built
life,
this
man.
relationship like through email, and that's the nice thing with internet now. And then when you went to Palau and you thought you had this Pacific sleeper shark, that just was like, oh, this is really kind of cool. And then fast forward, about a year, you sent me some pictures when you were in Timor-Leste. I didn't even know you were in Timor-Leste at the time. And
I move around very quickly.
I was kind of like, oh, what are you doing? I thought you were on holiday or something.
Yeah, no.
And then you're like, oh no, I work here now. And then that led to me modifying my. I was planning to go to Indonesia already, and suddenly I added Timor-Leste into the group, and that was one of the best things I
yeah,
did.
that
Now we've
escalated very quickly, actually.
yeah, oh yeah,
And that was also a side gig that
Yes.
I kind of wangled into my day job to make it happen. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure it could have happened outside of it, but it was just easier to kind
Well,
of like smush it.
I mean,
smush
I was
it
going.
in.
Yeah.
I was already going to Darwin, Australia, and then I was going to go from there
Next
to
door.
Bali, and then suddenly you and I connect, and like literally within like a couple of weeks, it's like, okay, I'm coming to Timor-Leste with the team, and
That's so
phenomenal. It was a phenomenal. Yeah, that's
Well, when
to
you
me the
came back from that trip, you were like, Timor-Leste is a gold mine of species and things like that. You know,
Oh.
you were
Yeah.
you were like a kid in a
Yes.
candy store.
Oh man!
coming
Oh,
back from that.
oh yeah, I got to.
You know.
well, I
So
still got to
nice
go.
to hear. Yeah,
Oh,
that's awesome.
oh yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, if you haven't heard the podcast episode, check it out. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But because I want to go back and do some diving there next time,
Yeah.
and I want to go. I've never seen a seahorse in the wild. That's one of the things I definitely like to see. Sometimes
They're
see.
awesome. I mean,
You
Thank
have to
you.
be careful you don't see a
They're
croc
awesome.
in the wild.
Yeah, I still want to run the
As you're diving
crocodile.
for them.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was.
Because those were the stories that concerned me. I was like, you could what now? Like, how many are there? Are they where?
Yeah, I was-
everywhere?
Too
Wait,
many.
Yeah.
There's too many.
I know, and I told the story, but I've been in Africa, Nile crocodiles, you know they're there. Been to other places where they had like Australia, but man, in Timor-Leste, that was like a new level of crocodiles for me.
Yeah.
It was just like
hum, hum,
everywhere.
hum.
Yeah, it was just like,
Yeah.
don't step off the road, don't go here, And I remember the one day we talked about this when Denise was on the show last year about. She was asking, I think it was, I can't remember, it was Junior. She said, is it okay to go take a picture over there, some like pretty little lagoon? And I thought he said yes, and so she starts walking over there, and he starts running. No, there's like a crocodile there. It took some guy last week. It's like,
Oh dear God! Dear
like great.
Lord.
All I need to do
man.
Not
is
ideal.
lose the
Not
camera woman the first week in the trip.
Yeah.
Great, that's perfect. you know?
No, I don't want to do that.
There's other people that we can lose. Not
Yeah,
us.
yeah, I know. We have plenty of people from World Fish. We
Yeah.
can lose one of them.
Come on, let's take them.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I just
God.
So I think
Yeah.
it's kind of cool that this was like the Timor-Leste was like a side gig for you while you're at Palau. And
No,
did
no,
I
no,
catch that?
no.
Was that not right?
no.
No, so the shark stuff in Timor-Leste was a side gig for me.
Oh,
it wasn't
okay.
It wasn't my day job.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and this is
Yeah, yeah.
just so people understand, because we'll be we're going to be doing an episode later this year on Timor-Leste, and we'll have Louw come back on to talk, get more in depth on the Timor-Leste stuff. But this was a place that's completely unexplored for sharks and rays, and so now we have Adriana Pastan on the ground now, who's doing her PhD, and this was a side thing we sort of worked out with Louw, is that Adriana's doing this as part of her thesis chapter now on Timor-Leste, which is great for her, because we have a grad student doing all the work now. We can just enjoy them.
Yeah, that's awesome, I think. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, she wouldn't have gone to... Timor was not in her plans.
No.
So
not in the
it's
original.
awesome how it comes together, because
Yeah.
someone needs to pay attention to this, and who's
Right.
better than Adriana for that?
Oh,
But
yeah,
also
yeah, well-
Adriana doing a PhD on it.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
I've known
Yeah.
Adriana for a while, and I'd been in the field with her, and we've done her and I actually had worked together, and I knew she was in Darwin, and I thought like, oh, this is just perfect. And so I talked to her advisor, Pete Kine. I said, hey, do you mind if I take your grad students with me to Timor-Leste, and might work something out? And he's like, sure. So it's literally
Yeah.
so, and it worked in. It's going to be just going to be I think just a beautiful chapter for her whole thesis, and it's
Yeah.
a completely unexplored area. I mean, it's like, yeah, and I'm sure there's people listening to this thinking, where's Timor-Leste now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go look at a map.
Yeah.
It used to be
Yeah.
East. I know if I tell people East Timor, they know that, but Timor-Leste,
Yeah.
the
I
name
didn't know
change anymore.
either. I needed to Google it. To be
Yeah, we
I was
definitely had a
like-
Google on it when we discussed it before the podcast
Right.
Yeah.
recording.
Right.
I was like, I
Yeah.
need to find out more about this place.
Yeah.
But it was.
But what
yeah,
a country, though. You know,
Oh.
if you're a diver and if you're a macro diver, 100% a place
Yeah.
to visit. It's amazing.
And
Yeah.
it was not easy to get around to places, but it was a phenomenal definitely one of the highlight trips of my career, going someplace completely off the grid, didn't know anything about, showed up there, people were friendly, just getting
People
to,
are
it was,
amazing. The Timorese
Yeah.
people are amazing.
Yeah,
But the
it was-
driving is true. So we were driving from
Yeah.
one place to another, and our driver, Sam, we were like, hey, Sam, how long would it be? And he's like, no, 2 hours, man, 2 hours. And then 5-6 hours later, we were
Yeah.
still driving. And we were like,
and the,
Wait a minute.
and the,
I'm not sure, Sam. This doesn't feel
I
like
gotta,
you.
I'll have to post on social media some of the roads there, because there were places that we'd be driving just in the middle of nowhere, and Sam would know, like, oh, I need to go right here. I'm going to turn left here. And there's no signs,
Yeah, no.
and we're just sitting in the car like, okay, well, I never in a million years would have figured out how to get around there. But
The benefit of having a driver who lives there is
Oh, yeah.
huge
Well,
in this
well,
case.
And he's
Well,
also a great driver. Some of those drivers are
yeah.
crazy.
Well,
Like, he takes you from A to B alive.
yeah,
So-
yeah, exactly.
Lovely
Exactly.
person.
Well, when you stopped you out of the car to sort of quote use the restroom, he's like, "Don't get off the road, because the Crocs will probably take you out there."
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, it was one of those. If you ever go there and you want to go explore in Timor-Leste, talk to somebody and hire a good driver, because you will not, because there's no signs out there. You're just driving along, and you'll just turn one way or another, and you just assume the driver's going to get you there eventually. And yeah, like you said, it's like, I tell you, maybe it's 2 hours as well. It's more like 5 or 6 hours to get there.
And that's torture, you know, because you in your head is like, I'm going to
Oh,
get
yeah,
ready
2
for a
hours, no
2-hour
problem.
drive.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're
That's
like,
a big, like, if it's 2
not
and then
in
maybe
it.
you go 3, that's not bad. But to go like triple the amount of
Yeah,
time, you're like, okay, this
not
is
cool,
this
man.
is crazy. Yeah.
And I think the funny thing is, we would stop in these towns that I'm sure they had names for them. We just stop in the town like, okay, it's time to eat, and just like order up whatever on the menu. And I still remember, like, we'd order, like, chicken seemed to be a staple there. And I can remember, like, we're all there looking at quote chicken bones, and we're all looking at each other like 6 biologists, and we're like, "What part of the chickens is this?" I have no, and it was just like, okay,
The golden rule is
we're
don't
gonna
ask
call
questions.
it. Yeah, we're gonna ask. Yeah, well, I was a newbie at the time. I know.
Eat the food.
I
Ask questions.
Lowe's just like, it's chicken, Dave. It's just called chicken.
Chicken, just in your head,
Eat
it's
the
chicken.
fucking chicken.
It's the fucking chicken. Yeah, you know.
Don't ask.
Never mind. There's lots of cats and there's rats the size of cats around. But
Dude, it could actually have been a dog, maybe. Also,
Yeah.
I don't know. Regardless, you
Chicken.
got
It
some
was
protein. It was all good.
Yeah, it was
Well,
chicken.
it
We had
was
chicken
good.
and rice. It was great.
Yeah.
We loved it. It was awesome.
Chicken rice. In
But
my
I
head,
think-
it's chicken and rice. Chicken and rice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is having a country like this and then doing research in it. So it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's difficult.
Oh, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
difficult to get it in. And our situation and what we had just had the opportunity of I was a person that was an in that knew other people that wanted to in and connected them with people that live there.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how you get to do stuff.
Right, and
I think,
and,
you know?
and it's like I talk about a lot of these things. Like we're finding a lot of we're gonna have some really cool stuff coming up later on with the sharks and rays we're finding there. But it's like I always say, like, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And the fact that people haven't gone there to do it, it's not. And you know, there, Louw, you live there. It's like it's not an easy place to work and stuff. And you just get in there and you just do the best you can and stuff. And as I say, if you've got to have a bit of an explorer sort of attitude to go and do that stuff, because it's not. Like I say, you think you're going a 2-hour ride, it's like a 5 or 6 hour ride.
Yeah.
And it's not it's all dirt roads. And now using the word road kind of loosely because
It's
some
a
of the
path.
places.
It could be a path.
Yeah, it could be a path. There could be something,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just kind of
Yeah.
a thing, amazing. And the other thing I just wanted to mention too, like the people there were so nice. And if you look up the
Nice
history of
people.
there, it's just they went through just like a brutal civil war for almost 30 years with Indonesia, and yet you just think like, God, these are like the nicest people I've ever met. Like who'd want to have a war with these guys? They're just really friendly, and just like anyway, it was just amazing, just some amazing contact there. I just really like I said, I definitely hope to get back there someday and do some.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do some diving. Lou's going to show me seahorses there somehow. So
Yeah, all the tiny things.
all the
All the
tiny
tiny
things.
All the tiny
All the
things. We're
invertebrates.
going to convert you. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to convert you.
Oh, speaking of which, I saw you did a book with Terry Gosliner.
Yeah, but marginally, I provided some photos.
Okay.
So marginally. No, Georgina Jones was the writer and creator of all. And
Okay.
to be fair, all the other co-authors were just people that gave photos. So
Okay.
we shouldn't actually be.
Well, it's
no,
still
to
it's
be
still a
fair.
book. It's
Yeah.
still yeah. I don't know if you noticed, but Terry worked at the South African Museum back in the day.
I
back in-
think I
in the
knew that. Yeah.
In the early '80s, he left. He left and went to the California Academy of Sciences just before I arrived in South Africa. Like he left like in
Oh,
84,
wow.
80. He left in 84, 85, and I arrived in like 86. And years later, I got to know, because I'm just south of San Francisco, so I go up and I got to know him here in San Francisco. Real nice guy. But yeah, he spent a couple of 2 or 3 years, I think, in South Africa and wrote a book on the
He's got a
nudibranchs.
very close connection here.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh.
nudibranchs is like every second one is a new one. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
there's
got his
there's so
job
many to discover, eh?
cut out for
Yeah.
him. Yeah, every
Yeah.
second one is new.
Well-
So much so that people are just like species 1, species 2, species 3. No
Yeah.
one cares anymore.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Oh yeah, he still goes back every now and then because he has good friends in Cape Town. And there actually some of his people, him and his wife are friends with, or became good friends of mine when I lived there at the museum there. Yeah, we have some really turned out we had really good mutual friends, but it was only after I'd left South Africa I got to know him in San Francisco.
It's awesome though.
Anyway, that's a
It
small
just, man,
little.
the science circles are small. Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you're studying.
True.
It's all
Very
small,
Agreed.
incestuous world. But I know people listening got off a little tangent there. But but the point is, you meet a lot of people in this field
Yeah.
that you wouldn't know that they have this travel in these different circles. And like I said, it's a small world in a lot of ways. So
But I think that played a big role in how I do my work also, because I've worked on many different things, right? And most of that is because I met someone or someone wanted to do something where I was based or whatever, and then I dabble in what they maybe do or whatever. and that's how you build your network and you learn. So it's
Yeah.
always been a steep learning curve because there's always new things happening and
Yeah.
new fields.
And now you got into the shark world now, which is awesome in my perspective.
I feel like that's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
to
it could be, but
honest. Yeah,
well,
one day you wake up and it's just like sharks everywhere.
yeah, suddenly
That's
start
your life.
you start thinking about then doing
Yeah.
that solo dive off Nysa doesn't look so quite as like I wonder that a lot of things could have gone really wrong here.
Right.
I didn't even think about sharks.
barely. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you got shark. By the way, when you were working in Nysa, did you ever come across blue stingrays or any of the other?
Yeah. Because they go into the harbor there and then they breed. I think October, November. They aggregate there. Many of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the worst was when I was doing my surveys for seahorses, and every now and again I got shocked the shit out of me by these electric rays.
Oh, the electric rays? Oh yeah.
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 And I didn't think they could do that, but they can.
Oh yeah.
You discovered it the hard way.
Yeah, you found
Yeah.
it.
But also, such a rookie, like not only once, like a few times.
Yeah.
You know?
It wasn't like, I should stay away from them. No,
Yeah.
no.
What? Once you can
They're
accept
sneaky.
once you can accept, but a third or fourth time, it's like that's kind of on you.
It's my fault.
Yeah, but they're
that's
sneaky,
on me.
Dave. They're sneaky because they lie and they kind of cover themselves and they're in
Yeah.
the seagrass and you don't see them.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
true.
how I look for seahorses. And then it's like, oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
there's another
okay.
one.
You're forgiven in that. Well, I don't know if you ever watched like the blue, because Paul Cowley worked on blue stingrays for his master's thesis, and we used to go
I didn't know
dive.
that.
Yeah, it was his master's thesis with blue stingrays, and so we used to dive along the coast there in areas where we knew the stingrays would aggregate,
Yeah.
snorkeling, and you can see this is again back in the 80s. You can see where they sit in the bottom, and a lot of times if they're feeding, they'll put their spine up
Yeah.
as a protective measure. Have you seen that? Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
it's
Like straight in the air.
sadly, like whatever it was, 15 years later when Steve Irwin got impaled by a thing, I knew exactly because I used to watch those
That would
things. Those
happen.
stingrays.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what happened because you could see swimming along. If you don't see those rays in the thing, and they just like that spine goes up, man, you can be in a lot of trouble if it hits you in the wrong spot and stuff. But yeah.
Now, also, we should mention that Steve Irwin was like holding the stingray, facing the stinger. He wasn't like just swimming and it got stuck. He was
Right.
handling.
I mean, that's
it,
not
and
ideal. So then that
No.
would...
Yeah.
No. But in very
Yeah.
Steve Irwin fashion, he was holding it.
Right.
so-
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
trying to show. Yeah. Right. He was actually. I'm
Yeah.
talking. But you could be swimming along, not looking for rays at all, and like swim
Yeah.
over one. You could get
Not realize it, yeah.
Because these blue stingrays, and they're not the only one. They'll come in shallow like that. But the fascinating.
Super shallow and
Yeah.
aggregate, like a
Yeah.
carpet of them. Yeah.
Yep. And
Oh,
the
wow.
thing about that we always I talk about is like that's something you just observe. Like you see that the just sort of laying out there and stuff. But it's an interesting observation that I don't think people really had ever commented on before until Paul's thesis, that these things actually, when they're feeding, because they're busy, they put their spine up because, well, things like bull sharks will like to eat them. And there's a few other sharks that like to eat those things, seven-gill
cool.
sharks. And that's why if you ever have a chance to dissect a bull shark, look around the jaws. You'll find like just dozens and dozens of stingray spines in the mouth of a bull
That's
shark.
so cool.
Yeah. And same with hammerhead sharks too. They love to eat
Yeah.
stingrays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you see
so-
them hunting stingrays all the time in the shallows, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So now you're back in South Africa. Now you've left Timor. What's next for Louw?
I don't know. So my Timor chapter kind of ended, but I'm still going to continue working in Timor. We're looking at the ecosystem on the south coast. So we're doing some baited remote underwater video, so you can get an idea of the ecosystem function, what's happening. And
Right.
then we're connecting that with the communities that live there to understand their resource use and how that can change into the future. So the bigger picture is to help communities to kind of adapt. But in that is really a first look. Because
Yeah, of
no
course.
one has ever looked.
You're looking for almost like if whatever reference is, this is your reference data.
This
at this
is
point,
this is
right?
what it is. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it-
I'll continue to dabble with that. But remotely, I'll go for field trips and so on. And then otherwise, looking around for my next full-time gig and side gigs, multiple
Well,
side gigs.
Lo, what's
Yeah.
it like? What is the question for you? Like I always ask, a lot of scientists that we have on, like, what's the question that drives you? Is it that exploration? Is it that initial, like, just describing a species or describing, an ecosystem like in East Timor where you're not, or Timor-Leste, where you just don't know what's there or what the trends are? Is that what drives you, is these new habitats and getting new information? Or is there some other question that you really want to know and you really want to sort of indulge in and dive into?
It's weird. Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because I've been thinking that myself. Because I feel like my career has kind of happened haphazardly. Like,
right.
There came opportunities, and I'm like, I can do that. Why not? Yeah. How difficult can it be? Very difficult, it turned out. Very difficult. Everything's very difficult. So at Palau, I studied large-scale marine protected areas, right? So it's offshore, deep sea, offshore. In Timor, it's coastal, shallow.
Right.
And both of these scenarios were a first look, right? But what I find interesting, the more I do what I do, is I like to go to a place. I want to insert myself into that place, understand it, and then understand how it works on a local scale. Because I think in the sciences, well, in my kind of frame of reference, we're going bigger, global.
Yes.
And we're missing the local. So
yes.
our data is coming so generic.
Absolutely.
So you can understand a area generically, but is that real? Is it real?
Right.
Right.
So I like to spend time. So in Timor, I was privileged enough to live there for like 2 years, and a full year on the south coast in a little village. And the things you observe, I mean, Dave, we drove around where people were catching fish and we saw no sharks or rays, right?
Yep.
But that's just timing. I think what really interests me is to go on the super local level. I always think I like to do kind of pilot studies that you can then scale to different areas and whatever. But understanding coastal ecosystems, the functioning, and what I really want to dabble in more, which I want to teach myself, is more of thinking about how it will change into the future. So while I was in Timor, I started working marginally with ecosystem modeling, and I would love to expand that more and go to like deep diving into it. If my brain can comprehend things like that. So we'll see how that goes. I'm unsure.
Love it. And then our final question that we ask everybody is, you've been in this career for a little bit now. You've accomplished quite a bit already. For people who are just starting out their careers that are listening to this podcast, they want to go into shark science or marine science in general, what advice would you give them so that they can help them that might help on the journey, that would, like, if you were looking back, would have helped you, or that continues to help you in the future?
I think some things that really helped me is firstly, take a beat, take time and think about your science, think about what you want to do, think about your question. Prof. Allenson always said to me, what you need to go do now is go sit in your little hut alone and go and think. So do that, and then reach out, build your network. I have sent 1 million cold emails to 1 million different people, and it doesn't pan out always, but it pans out many times. And then you build your network. And what I find useful is any job I then do and I need advice from somebody that knows more, I can reach out and be like, hey man. Or I can do nice projects with people across the world. And then the last thing I always tell myself is you don't need loads of money or big toys, or magic big organizations to do things. You can go out and do science and do research and do cool stuff on bare minimum,
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, so especially countries like South Africa, I mean, our rand doesn't do well, right? People don't get big funding, but you can still do cool stuff.
Yeah,
you don't need to wait for that.
A lot of it's networking too. Wouldn't you agree? Networking.
Hugely so. I mean, the pygmy seahorse, the pygmy pipe horse, the work with you, many of that thing, we had no funding.
Yeah.
We paid our own way. Yeah. So just do that, man. Do the fun things.
Well,
absolutely.
Louw, this has been awesome. I knew you'd be a great guest, and we're going to be having We're going to be having a one of the upcoming Searching for Lost Sharks episodes is going to be on Timor-Leste, and it's going to be coming up here in 2026. And we'll have you back on to talk about the episode when it comes out, and then we'll get
that'd be
dive.
awesome.
We'll
Love
dive
talking
deep
about Timor.
Yeah, we'll do a real deep dive. We didn't get real into it here, but we'll do a deep dive into Timor-Leste, a fascinating country. I had, and I have to say, thanks to you, one of the highlights of my career was doing that trip with you.
That's awesome, because I know you've been
really
everywhere.
Yeah, no, it was that was
awesome.
that was a real. It was so unexpected, and you just made the trip so wonderful. And now all the ancillary projects coming from it, so
yeah,
be great.
Awesome.
So anyway, thank you very much, Louw, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you guys, and thank you for having me on. This is so much fun. Yeah,
you bet.
Cool.
We loved it. I can't wait to have you back on again. Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Louw, for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. What an episode. We got into a lot of things. We got sidetracked a lot, which was a lot of fun. We're having like just a great conversation when we get sidetracked and talk about just little things, how things have changed, and just sort of like how things have, how things came to be, which I think is kind of fun, like going through that history, which you don't know about all the time until you talk to people. And this is why I think podcasting and speaking and networking is so important, because you start to hear those stories of little things that happen. I don't think we recorded, but we talked a lot after about how, white sharks were protected back in the day, and, and how all that kind of got together, which we'll probably do an entire episode just on that, because it's such a crazy story. But it's just kind of cool to go and recount some of these things and go back in time to look at how things are done here and how the perspectives have changed in a span of a few decades, which I think is really cool. Dave, like, what did you get out of this interview other than going down memory lane?
Other than going down memory
Louw?
lane, I think the thing with Louw is that she just has a broad interest, which I think is really important. A lot of people, we've talked to people, I do and you do and stuff, whether on the podcast or just in person. And especially a lot of young people think like, if I want to do sharks, I need to be doing sharks like from day one, blah, 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 blah. And certainly some of us, I was kind of always into the shark thing early on, but someone like Louw took her kind of a circuitous route to get there. she grew up, we've had other guests on there. She grew up inland, basically in a mining town in the middle of South Africa. And, she slowly came around to getting into marine science, did her PhD working in an estuary environment. And then through different networking, basically, she ended up working on sharks. And her and I have done a couple of papers now. And now we have this project going on in Timor-Leste with Adriana Pestana. And it's just one of those, I think it's a great story. It kind of shows you how things can come along. And even if you maybe didn't start off doing sharks, you can kind of find your way there eventually. And even if you're someone who wanted to do sharks early, you have to sometimes take a different path to get there. So I think Louw's story is a great one. She just really had a passion for the marine environment. She really enjoys working in the communities and a lot of these developing countries, and certainly having been for her being in Palau and in Timor-Leste, those are certain areas to be in. And it's an adventure too. She's definitely got that explorer gene to
100%.
go to look around. She just really, really thrives on it. And I can tell you from having gone there and explored Timor-Leste with her, that's an adventure. That's for sure. And but it was just it was really wonderful. I knew I'd kind of getting to know her. I knew she'd be somebody to be really good. She's just, they say, kind of getting into the shark world. So stay tuned. We'll see what big things she has coming up in the future. And if you're out there looking for a really good, teammate and stuff, you're an employer. She's looking around for some other job opportunities now, which I think's good. It really,
absolutely,
you definitely build up more of a portfolio, moving around a little bit to different job opportunities and stuff. You learn more. You get, and with her, she has more of a global perspective. And we talked, as you know, we talked both on air and off air about just when you work in a lot of these countries like Timor-Leste or Palau or Madagascar stuff, you really get especially you and I, you come from Canada, me from the U.S., you get home, man, from one of these trips, I know I do, and Louw does, is a whole new perspective. It's like, what are our problems here? Christ, you don't have any problems. And
when you think about compared to what people go through or have gone through and getting over that trauma of wars and civil wars and droughts and everything, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going on today where you just don't realize it. When you come home, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like The stuff
Yeah.
that we're talking about is stuff still needs to be talked about. But when you look at the world perspective, you're like, no, actually, I'm like, doing pretty okay over here. So
Oh yeah,
we're definitely
yeah.
privileged in that, you and I, living in the countries that we do, and it's kind of nice
Oh,
in that way.
I very appreciate
And
it. Yep.
hopefully it doesn't flip another way,
Yeah.
in time. But what I found interesting about this interview was the fact that, like, no matter what era you grew up in, networking is still the number one thing when
Yes.
we look at a career, right? Like,
Yeah.
I remember, talking to people, the name escapes me right now, but talking to people that we've talked to on this podcast before, where, when back in the 80s and 90s, they were writing letters to different
yeah.
professors and stuff like, and that's how they
Yeah.
would communicate. Yeah, you were doing it too, and that's how they would communicate. And in this one, Louw was like, yeah, I spam
Send an
email
email.
people. I just send email to
Yeah.
people, like, not spam email as in like give them spam, but also connect with them to talk to them. The ones that reply end up developing really great professional relationships with them. I mean, that's how you got to know her, like, through email, not necessarily her contacting you, but like you guys contacting each other through Jonathan and just being like, hey, like, let's work together. And then you have two papers together. I think
Yeah.
networking is still the thing that no matter what technology is around, it's still the biggest thing when we look at how people are moving forward and how people are trying to, create opportunities and knowing people and being available. Like, sometimes just sitting in the same room as something, as like when people are talking about a project and they need something. Like in this one, Louw was on a field trip, and he's like, oh yeah, if I like, it'd be really cool to, and her professor was like, it'd be really cool to know more about this seahorse. And
Yeah.
Lou's like, well, if you ever have any money, I'll do that work. And all of a sudden, like, a couple of weeks later, a couple of months later, she gets an email, or she responds to him, or checks in with him, follows up and says,
Right.
hey, by the way, I
She
was
followed
serious
up.
about that. Just a
Right.
follow up, just a
Yeah.
quick email saying, hey, by the way, still interested in that. And then it develops into a whole new thing.
Yep.
You can't, like, this is, I tell people all the time, I tell my daughter as well, it's when you get into university, when you get to that level, your professors, I know they're as intimidating as they can be when you first start. The biggest thing is getting to know them. Not just as a student to teacher kind of thing, but also as, like, colleagues.
Yeah.
Get to know the research that they're doing, get to know the work that they're doing, but get to know them. And then you never know what's going to happen. I'm not saying it's guaranteed that opportunities come, but when an opportunity arrives and you're in the right place at the right time, talking to the right person, you just might be there just by happenstance.
I haven't told the story on air. It's a little longer story. I'll tell sometime. I tell it when I give public talks, but when I was an undergraduate at Humboldt State, just finishing up I was getting ready to start my last semester, I literally had a cup of coffee with a professor there. And that cup of coffee led me to grad school and eventually led me to South Africa.
Yeah.
It was just a cup
Crazy,
of coffee.
right?
And so,
insane.
I mean, I never would have, my entire trajectory in life changed over a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and I was like, whatever, 21 years old at the time. And it was just and literally I was just a professor I had a class with. I knew him. He just asked what I was doing when I finished up. And I told him what I was interested in. And he said, well, let's go have a cup of coffee. And we did. And, my entire trajectory and so, like, Louw's kind of the same thing. Her whole trajectory changed because of certain things that have happened. And so you just never know what point in life some cup of coffee or something could change your whole life.
Mine was based off an email. I remember my last semester of my undergrad, I did a presentation. When I did the presentation, one of the critiques that my to-be advisor was saying, who was my teacher at the time, saying that we don't know enough about physical oceanography. A lot of people, when he said it, I was up, presenting. This was like the remarks afterwards. A lot of people in the class thought he was insulting me, that I didn't know much. And at some point you're like, oh, well, that was kind of harsh. But after that, a year after that, maybe a year and a half after that, I'm out at sea in the Gulf of Mexico doing work. And I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm learning about physical oceanography and all this kind of stuff, and learning through, like, real world kind of experience. And I remember when I got back to land after one trip, I emailed them like, hey, I'm not sure if you remember this, but I told the whole scenario. I'm like, at first I took it as an insult. And then I'm out here in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and I realized you were right. And I'm like, I didn't know enough about physical, not because like I didn't want to know. It's just it just wasn't taught in our program.
Right.
He responds, "Hey, thanks for letting me know I'm right. Do you want to do a master's with me?"
Yeah.
Just from email, and
Yeah.
maybe I like coaxed him a little bit, but I didn't ask for a master's. I just said, "Hey, you know what? I wanted to acknowledge that you were right."
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad at the time, but now I feel better about myself that I'm learning this and thing. And maybe if I look back, I would do a little bit more real world stuff when I was an undergrad. And then all of a sudden I'm doing my master's out at Acadia with him within the year.
And you
just
weren't even
crazy thing.
And you weren't even planning to do a master's, right?
I was planning to do a master's at some point, but I didn't know what, and I didn't know when, I didn't know with who. So I was still working at that point. I was enjoying myself I was living.
You're having a good
Mexico
time
on a boat, so I'm having a great time just out of university and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it was just, and I didn't necessarily have the marks to get into a school. I had to do a makeup semester, and but the fact that I had the technician experience, really made it valuable to him because I worked for him as a technician in the summers. And so, but even before my graduate work, I was wandering around Nova Scotia in a little boat with an undergrad, and we were, doing water quality stuff in estuaries. It was fun. It was I had such a great time doing it. Plus, I got to see what Nova Scotia was like. I'd never been out east, and so it was a lot of fun to do that. But again, it comes down to just like messaging something after you hearing, even if it's a critique. Even if it was something like, I don't know if he meant, he was kind of harsh. He was like old school kind of that way, but it was after a critique. And I said, hey, you know what? I should acknowledge that you were right at that point. I never realized it until now, but you were right. And next thing you know, hey, why don't you come and let's discuss a master's, and we did a master's together. So the networking is probably the most important part. If you can go to conferences, go to conferences. If you can, if you're in university, go talk to your professors. They do not want to hurt you. They do not want to harm you. They don't want to make you feel bad. You'll get some that are great, some that are awful, and everybody else in the middle. But it's the networking that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, well, the nice thing of going to conferences to network is that everybody's usually there that you want to talk to, or most of them, let's say.
True.
And and the other thing is you can talk to other students who are in the program and find out what's the story on that professor.
Like. Absolutely.
And that may or may not change. It may make you want to go work with that professor more. It might make you think like, maybe that's not going to be a good fit for me. But that's
absolutely
that's the big thing is you can also talk to the students and get a feel for like what their experience is in that person's lab. And,
absolutely.
And so
again, and Louw is like the perfect example of this, right? It's the networking and being able to get consulting gigs from it and some side projects in it because she knows people. And we've shown the evidence just in this interview. So thank you, Louw, for doing that. We really appreciate you coming on. We'll love to have you back on, talk more Timor-Leste when we put out that episode for the Lost Shark Guy Extinct or Alive. And of course, Dave, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they do so?
Instagram. I'm probably most active in Instagram. And I'm also on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. But probably Instagram is the best way to hit me up. And it's just Dave at Lost Shark Guy. And also check out, if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, Lost Shark Guy, and the series Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive. We got episode 5s coming up soon. And please check them out. And if you like it, please hit subscribe for both the Lost Shark Guy and for our Beyond Jaws YouTube channel. We appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, always fun. Beyond Jaws, looking at our Instagram and YouTube channel, subscribe and do all that wonderful stuff. We'll connect you with Louw and her social media links as well. And we want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank Louw, of course, and thank you guys for joining us on this episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I hope you had a great time. Thank you so much. Have a great day and happy conservation.